Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome back to another episode on Her Creative Freedom podcast. If you are new here, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Cassandra. I am your host, and on this podcast, I share everything from lifestyle, from travel, especially on the road, as I do live in my home on wheels with my beautiful wiener dog Tucker, and I share my life experiences from mental health, body image, self-love, relationships, and bringing your dreams and goals into reality. In addition, I bring on the most incredible special guests that talk about all of these areas in depth of their own perceptions. And yeah, we just like to have a good time and share these things with you. Share the things that people don't talk about. On today's episode, I have a very special guest. She is truly an incredible light being, with the purpose to help those better their life by stepping into the person, or more so, to step into the life they are truly meant to be living. Chelsea is definitely someone I look up to and admire deeply. She offers you so much of your own potential, and her passion to help shape lives is amazing. We talk about everything from her childhood as an athlete, dealing with an eating disorder, and how she became the woman she is today because of her life experiences, in addition to absolutely everything that she's offering you. This is one of those podcasts that gets you thinking about your life on a much deeper level, and really just gets you starting to ask questions, something that we all should be doing. So sit back or go for that walk and enjoy this episode with our special guest, Chelsea. Hello! Hi!
Hello! Can you hear me?
Yeah. I love that you're outside because we're outside together. I love it.
I had to. I was like, oh, it's just like gorgeous. I was like, I'm not going inside. I'm going to be outside all day.
I know. I was inside too, sitting in front of a big window because I was like, I just need to like sit low to the ground and like have natural light with me. And then I can't because I'm with my family right now and I'm back in my van. I'm like, why am I not out here? Like my big door's open. I can feel the bugs and the breeze. I can't ask for anything more than that.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
Yeah, I planned on spending more time here and then I head to Quebec.
So fun.
It's been crazy.
So fun. Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah, it's been really good. Where are you again?
I'm at a cabin and
nice.
It's been like
you're living there full time, right?
Yeah, I've gotten so much clarity being here. It's been the best decision, like the hardest decision. Like I didn't think it was gonna be it's difficult at times, but it was like the best thing I could have done. So,
is it the difficultness as like you being by yourself there?
Yeah. And everything, like you can't run from anything, you know. No. It's like it was like the winter and I was like, I can't do this. I need something and I need someone. And it just like, yeah, it was great. It was like it was great. It was like the most healing thing I probably could have ever done. Mm-hmm. And for anyone to live in a cabin by themselves for 6 months, it's like, of course, you're going to get to know yourself and like figure out what it is that you want and what you don't want and like what your next steps actually feel right.
Yeah, I can so relate to that being in the van because I've never been so isolated before. And I've been on the road for 2 months already, which is insane. But I still feel like I haven't experienced what I want to experience yet. And I think it's because I've been with family and friends. Ontario is like the core of my family. So as soon as everyone knew I was coming, everyone wanted to see me. And I was blinded to like thinking that was possible until I like burnt myself out and was like, hey, I'm done. I can't visit or talk to any more people.
Yeah.
So going to Quebec, I'm really excited because I will be completely by myself. And as tough as it is, especially when shit hits the fan and I'm not close to anything nor like of familiarity, I was like, oh, I don't know if I can handle this. But then you get through it and you're like, hey, if I can handle this, I can handle the next thing. And that was like a huge learning experience for me.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing is like it flexes your trust muscles, like your faith muscles, and like really gets you into a space of like, okay, I honestly have nothing else but to actually surrender to this and like allow whatever's to happen to actually happen and let it be out of my control and just like do what I know to do. I get that. The isolation piece and like the times when you really want someone there with you and they're not, it's like, holy fuck, am I gonna make it?
Yeah. Oh my God, I can so relate to that. And I know I'm
Yeah.
still going to experience that. We both probably are, but it is totally healing. And a lot of people were like, "Oh, you're going to see such beautiful sights and beautiful parts of Canada." And I totally am, and I'm loving it, but I'm more excited of like who I'm going to be in a year. And like, I'm not going to be the same, but I'm excited to meet her because I feel like that's what I've been longing for, you know? So yeah, it's a journey.
It is a journey. And one thing I just like feel like I want to say is like, you already are that person. And I know that you want to meet this person, but it's like, you already are that person. And what's going to happen is you're just going to become more and more resilient. And like your fate, like I truly believe that like a piece of the experience, like the life experience, like the human experience is to learn that, and is to learn to really like step out of the way and be like, okay, if I can do that, I can literally do anything. And you're just going to grow closer and closer to yourself and learn why you are the way you are and see how you respond to things, and instead of like reacting. And so
I love that.
I would even just like, like I would sit into the question of why do I think that needs to be then when I can actually experience that now, you know? Because again, it's like the constant striving for something. It's like, what's going to happen in a
You just
year?
took the words out of my mouth. Like, you're, instead of striving to be somebody, you already are that person. So live into that person because you are that person now.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
I love
and
that.
Yeah.
I'm so excited that you said that because we're going to get into it and I'm really excited. So first of all, thank you for taking the time of your Friday to talk to me.
Oh my gosh, you're so welcome. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm really excited because I feel like I am going to be, for anyone who listens to this podcast, I feel like I'm kind of listening to it too for the first time. Obviously, I know you, but I don't know the depth of you. And your personality, though, I know people want to know more about you, and want to be, maybe not want to be you, but I think that in my personal experience of how, when I interact with somebody, they want to get to this level that is like that you embody the level that people want to get to. And you're just like so totally inspiring to me. And I look up to you a lot with how you talk and how you think and how you look at the world. And people need to know everything that you're offering out there because they need to get their hands on it. So to whatever you're comfortable with, I do want to get into, first of all, introduce yourself, and then kind of like your childhood, like, you know, have you always been this uplifting and inspiring, and what has contributed to your character? I want to get into all of that, and then also what you're offering, because that is something that people need to know about. Take a minute and introduce who you are and all that good stuff.
Amazing. Okay. Well, that was like the sweetest intro I ever could have like asked for. Yeah. So my name is Chelsea. I guess you could call me like a free spirit, a curious mind, a lifelong learner, and someone who just really has this passion and this deep desire to help people and to connect people back to their like truest essence and who they actually are in order to do the things that they really came here to do. And so that's like, I guess like that's who I am. That to speak to, I guess to speak to my childhood and like how I got to be this person or like have these characteristics. Growing up, my mom, when I've had conversations with my mom, I was like always a really happy, cheerful baby. I always had a smile on my face. I was pretty chill. I was a bit of a rebel. I took risks from a young age and I just kind of did things. I remember never wanting to be told what to do. And I think that that's kind of stuck with me my entire life of like, don't tell me what to do. Like, and I think that that has helped me to develop a lot of character. But yeah, I come from a family of 3. I'm a middle child. I absolutely have middle child syndrome. And I like growing up, my sister and my brother, they would go off and do things together and they'd leave me out and I'd be stuck with my parents. And I mean, I didn't hate it because, to be honest, I didn't really want to do a lot of the things that my brother and my sister did. And I always kind of found that I liked hanging out with older people. And I've been told many times that I'm like an old soul. And apparently that's like one of the things that happens when you're an old soul. You just want to like hang out with older people. So I remember sitting in the kitchen with my mom and her friends, just wanting to listen and be with them. But yeah, I had a really I had a really good childhood. And I mean, I didn't have a ton. Like I didn't have a ton. My parents, they hustled,
Yeah.
coming from a family of five, like things were like tight. And I do remember those moments, and it's been through like unblocking and reprogramming, reparenting, all
Mm-hmm.
these things that have really supported me to get to where I am now. But
Are you
yeah,
born
growing
and
up,
raised Edmonton?
I'm born and raised in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, actually.
Oh, right, right, right. I knew that. Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I spent what would have been like 18 years. When I turned 18, I went traveling, and
Where'd you
I went
go?
traveling for a year. Oh my gosh, so we started in Bali. I went to Bali, Thailand,
Oh my God.
Singapore, and I lived for 6 months in Australia.
By
It
yourself.
was with one of my best friends. Yeah, we went backpacking for a
Nice.
year. But I guess like before that, a little background
Yeah, yeah.
is like, so I grew up dancing. I was a dancer. I spent a lot of time at the studio, but I was also someone who wanted to do it all. So not only did I dance competitively, take part in ballet exams, jazz exams, all the things, I also competed in all the sports in high school. And
Mm.
it was like the best time. Like I've always been that person to like want to do it all. And I often actually question myself. I'm like, if I were to commit myself to one thing, or I would have committed myself to one thing, what would have happened? And so, yeah, it's been like, I feel like I've lived so many lives.
Mm-hmm.
But to like really bring it to where this whole personal development spiritual journey
Yeah,
started
yeah.
was I had an eating disorder. And that kind of, it began when I was probably, I would say in grade 8 is when
Mm-hmm.
I had one of my best friends over from dance, and she was like, I'm not eating sugar anymore. And I was like, then I'm not going to eat sugar either. And it just spiraled and
Yeah,
spiraled and spiraled and spiraled. And so,
I can relate to that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, now thinking back to it, I am so grateful for that experience because it brought me so much closer to my body and appreciate my
Mm-hmm.
body and even myself. But there was some really, really dark time. And so, yeah, I guess you could say that it all started like in grade 8 or grade 9.
So what, just because I mean, I can relate to that so much in those
Mhm.
dark times, and you said that it brought you closer to you and your body. What contributed to that? Was it going through the dark times and then appreciating that you're like still here, that you just got through that dark time? Was there something like monumental that made you overcome that aspect of your life?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so it's kind of started in grade 8 and going into, so in Saskatchewan, we go kindergarten to grade 8, and then grade 9 to grade 12 is high school.
Right.
And so in high school, it was really easy for me to cover up because I was so active. I
Hmm.
was like always moving, always dancing, always like running around doing like sports, all these things. And so I was small, and I've always had like a smaller frame. Like I remember when I was like 7 doing kicks and like batmas down the dance floor,
I
and I
love it.
remember judging myself. I'm like, I hate my skinny legs. It's just so interesting. But then the one thing that I constantly got people commented on were my legs. They're like, you have the most beautiful legs. So I'm like, okay, cool, I have something going for me. If like that's the only thing that you're going to comment on is my body, then like I guess I'm just going to go full on into my body and like make sure that
Hmm.
I always have those beautiful legs.
Hmm.
So into high school, I was so controlling. I was so obsessive. And it was like weighing myself 5 times a day. It was like only allowing myself certain foods. Like I never starved myself, but I was so restrictive.
Hmm. Yep.
And it just like, it got bad. And so I remember, this is something that I remember very, very specifically is I was sitting on the bathroom floor, and I was like, why is this happening to me? Like, why is this happening to me? And
Hmm.
not a lot of people have heard this, but I heard something that said to me, because you're going to help people one day, and
Oh
this
my
is going to
gosh.
help you help them.
I can relate to you
And
so
I just
much
got
when you say that.
I just got these like goosebumps, and I was so young, and I like didn't really think anything of it. That stuck with me. And so I just like went about my life, and I it was like in and out, and I was going to therapy and like seeing a psychologist and all these things, and that kind of brought me to my first experience of sitting with someone in like a healing
atmosphere
environment, like, yeah. And so that was when I was first exposed to that. And as I continued on through high school, it was like in and out. Like I hated my body. I was constantly pinching and prying at my body. And it wasn't until I was maybe 2 years out of 2 years out of university, like 2 years out of high school, that things were like, okay, I'm like solid. But then, I mean, it's just so interesting how you pick up on your different addictions, right? So the eating disorder, being like addicted to the control of food, it turned into exercise.
Yeah.
And so that phase kind of left, and I was like not super controlling about food, but it was like, now I got to work out. If I'm going to eat like a normal human being, I'm going to then work out. And so that actually led me to becoming a spin instructor. So I taught fitness, and that was my job. And again, I'm working out all the time and living this really healthy lifestyle. And I'm like, I'm really like, I am fit, but it's still like I would teach and then I'd go to the gym, and it was like this whole thing. So it was like from the food to like the fitness. And then it just like, I feel like I've lived every piece of it. And I think the biggest come to like God moment was, I don't remember where I was or who told me it, but it was something like, if you're so obsessed with your physical body and looking a certain way, how are you going to help anyone? Because it's like all self-centered, right? It's like, it's constantly about you. And I was like, holy shit. Yeah. That's so true. And I was like, I'm not like, what is the point? And I remember even being in high school, like waking up at like 5 a.m. to like do thousands of sit-ups. And in those moments, I'm like, I am so isolated. Like, why? This is pointless, but I couldn't stop.
Yeah.
And so when I heard this, I was like, oh my gosh, that was me. Like I was so obsessed with my body and looking a certain way, I couldn't actually go and do things. Like I wasn't doing the things that I wanted to do because it was just like controlling my mind. It was like all I thought about.
Yeah.
And I didn't really go through like a massive transformative moment or month. It was really like, it's been like a process.
Yeah. And but they say that too.
Now and now I would say I'm more aware than ever. And it's like, I can pick up, I mean, specifically after being in, so I've been in a cabin for the last 6 months living on my own.
Yeah.
And so it's like in those moments of discomfort or needing something to comfort myself, it's like turning to me and not wanting to turn to, because I mean, like we all have like foods that make you feel a little bit better, right? It's like the emotional eating, the eating when you're bored. It's like, I'm so aware of that now that I can ask myself, okay, why am I eating this? And like, why do I want to continue eating it? Or like, why do I want to eat right now? And it's like, okay, you actually feel like this, or like you are lacking this and you are craving this. So it's like, actually give yourself that instead of coping with something external like food.
Yeah.
That in probably didn't really answer your question, but
no, it did. I love it. I mean, anyone who follows me on social media knows that eating disorders are in my background and in my history. And so, it holds a place in my heart because there are some dark, damn times that I wouldn't wish on anyone. But at the same time, again, same thing. I always used to ask myself, why is God wanting me to go through this? Because I'm a huge believer, and I always used to say, like, why is God, like, why this and not something else? And again, the intuitive response that I always received was because, especially being in the background of cheerleading and gymnastics, there are people that are keeping it to themselves, that don't have their voice. They don't know they have their voice yet to speak it. And there were times when I would talk about it throughout my journey, and that's when someone messages me or calls me and says, I've never told anyone this, but you sharing your story, it makes me want to share mine to you. And that is so healing all in itself. And I think, again, like it's particularly this for the both of us, that helps you learn and grow about yourself. And the fact that we're both isolating ourselves, in a cabin or in a van, you do learn so much about yourself. My question though for you is, in the times, especially with you're by yourself, when you are maybe you're feeling uncomfortable within your body or within yourself. They always say that, you know, people who deal with addiction or particularly eating disorders, it never goes away. Do you agree with that statement? Do you not agree with that statement? Do you feel that, you know, you have that voice in the back of your head, but you're so self-aware that you can now ask yourself those questions and not lean towards that voice that's in the back of your head? You can, you know, ask yourself the questions and react in what you really need or want. That was like 3 questions in one.
Yeah, I would say I would say I'm truly at a point where I can acknowledge the thoughts if they come up and be like, oh, that's there. But what I've really come to is that my body is a temple and I want to take care of it in the best way possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also a human being and I want to have a beautiful, full experience in this lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, what's really helped is that it's like I am human and how I look actually doesn't have anything to do with it. How I feel, absolutely. Like I will not eat foods because of the way that they make me feel. And I know that,
Mm-hmm.
but I've now like disconnected the two. And it's really like I give myself the gift of like indulging when I want. But I am so self-aware. And I, of course I'm not out here to get 50 pounds overweight. No, like I am,
Yeah.
it is like, in my eyes, we need to take care of our bodies and we need to nourish them properly. And that comes from eating like the macronutrients that I once like deprived myself of.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's like, of course the thoughts are there. Of course the thoughts will come up. And I honestly think that we all have these thoughts because we're just conditioned to believe this like programming, right?
Yeah.
Of like what we grew up around. So I think that I'm not putting words in anyone's mouth, but I'm sure that we've all had conversations with ourselves around, oh, you probably shouldn't eat that because X, Y, or Z, or don't eat too much of that because of X, Y, or Z. But it's like when you really like, this is the thing. This is what I'm like really passionate about is when you cultivate a connection to your body.
Yeah.
You can actually tell what your body needs.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell what your body needs. You can tell if you need to move. You can tell if you need to breathe. You can tell if you need to meditate. You can tell if you need more water. You can tell if you need to eat something. You can tell if you need to eat something more.
Yeah.
But it comes from slowing down and getting really, really present.
And I was going to ask that. When you say that your body knows what it needs, is it, I think I know the answer, but is it an emotion that you feel, or is it that first intuitive thought that comes through of like, if you were to sit down and calm and ask yourself, what does your body need? Is it the emotion or is it the words that you hear of your own?
I would say it's words and also feeling.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. I would say it's words and feeling. I wouldn't say my emotions. I don't think it's healthy to let your emotions guide you. Mm-hmm. I think it's very, very healthy for you to feel your emotions, to move through your emotions, to breathe through your emotions. Something that I've been practicing a lot is just breathing meditation and allowing the emotion to come up and feel it so strongly that you feel like you're going to hurl and then you just breathe through. Like it sounds awful, but like I did this yesterday and I was like, wow, I'm a different human being. And I feel like me again, maybe not a different human being. I feel like me again. Yeah. And not that you're not you when you have those feelings, but it's like, I feel like the essence of me is back. Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, I would say it's definitely intuitive, but it's also the feeling and the sense that I have in my body. You can feel when you're antsy, you can feel like you have a lot of like energy and you're like, I think I need to meditate. And you're like, no, you don't. You need to go and like go for a walk or do like a 15-minute workout or what have you.
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah. And also it'll come in phases. It'll come in cycles. Like for the last, I finally started working out again this week, but for like the last almost month, I didn't do any workouts. I strictly walked. And that's what felt really good to me. And I'm like, I don't really want to walk anymore. I'll still go on small walks or like, but I don't want to walk for like an hour and a half when that's what I really wanted to do. And it just felt so good. Mm-hmm. So I would definitely say feeling and intuition is what I really allow to guide me.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I do agree. And I think that there's being so intuitive with yourself that you know to take that second to ask yourself what you need versus people who just feel like chaos and they don't know what's going on. They just feel chaos in their body, and they don't even, their self-awareness is so not even there that they don't even know that if they just were to slow down, that they would find their answer there. So I love what you do
because we live these busy lives. Like our brains are always going. We don't give ourselves the time to just sit and be, and like also just be with the discomfort, because when you don't give yourself the time to actually listen in, you're going to continue to fill the void with something else, just make it more and more clouded. So you're going to continue to like spiral and be more confused and cause more lack of clarity. So yeah, the rest and like the pause is so important.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, you know, sitting in it is not fun, as you mentioned, like sitting in is hard, but anything that you can do to become self-aware and like that like just your intuition, grow your intuition, is going to be so rewarding. And I mean, between everything that you do and even the things that I've worked with Amber, and then being by myself, you're like forced to figure it out yourself and like become your own best friend. It's so rewarding and it's so worth it.
Yeah. And what I've even just like to add, it's like, yes, become so like in love with who you are, and also remember that you're actually not alone. That's something that I've witnessed time and time again, is like, we're not actually in this life alone. Like we have like spirit, God, creator, source, universe with us at all times. And that's been so extremely comforting in everything. And it's just like, yes, connect to yourself, and that self is something greater than you too.
And there are people in family and friends that, you know, don't believe in God, creator, universe. To me, just God. They don't believe in God. And I went to a Catholic school my whole life. I always believed in God, but I never really got close with him until probably the past 2 years. And it has really has changed my life in so many ways. And I love that it's like that you talk about it, because if people could only trust in him and build that relationship with him, to know that your life could get so much better if you just believe that there is something greater than you, and just trust that whatever you want in your life is coming because there's something greater than you. You're like opening a whole other door. And there are so many people that have that door closed because whatever belief they feel, because if you believe in God, X, Y, and Z, you're like closing that door to like endless opportunities and possibilities.
Totally.
So I just,
And you know, it's like, I would say that I've really leaned into this relationship in the last year. And like really deeply. And one thing I'll say is that for those who are really turned off by the term God, don't use it. Like I am not religious. I do not follow any religion, but I do believe that there is a higher source, a higher power that is given us all of our gifts and all this power, and like we are creators. And even saying, like, for those that don't believe, they're closing themselves off to so many possibilities. They may be, but also if they have faith, it doesn't have to be the faith in God. If they have faith in themselves, those things will still happen. Because that's the way that God has created us to be. And so it can be so limiting to think that you need to have this kind of relationship with God, and like you need to pray this way, and you need to ask for things this way, and you need to like do all these things. But for me, like, I've really tried, and I've kind of succeeded in the fact that I don't follow a real formula. Yes, I like gratitude and thanks is like the way to amplify and bring things to you in a really fast and quick way, but it doesn't have to look a certain way, you know, like you hear about these people that have these come to God moments. They're like, okay, just like tell me what to do. And it's like, that can be it. And they may not ever pray again, but they just know that they are guided because they are in that much faith. And like this is what I love, because when you do open yourself up to things that you never saw as possible, that is when magic actually starts to show up in your life. Like it's like
1000%.
manifestation, but it's like you're manifesting all the time, and it's all magic because
Yeah.
you are honestly the creator. And in order to really bring in those things that you want, there has to be a level of self-worth, which all comes back to love, like self-love.
Yeah.
And like getting into your mind to like reprogram those thoughts and beliefs that were all absorbed between the ages of 0 and 7.
Yes. Yeah.
But what I would say is through this journey of like self-love, body love, like this like intimate relationship to self, it's brought me closer to then God.
Yeah.
Because I would say if I would have done this, like lived in a cabin for 6 months by myself 2 years ago, I wouldn't have made it. I would have been like, I'm out of here. I'm going back to what I know is comfortable. I'm going back to what is normal. I'm going back to a job that is paid and I have a paycheck. But it's like, hold on a second. Why would I go back now when I've learned all of this and I have all this faith and I know all these things and I've embodied this version that like of this version of myself?
Yeah.
Why would I now go back? Because
Yeah.
if you do that, you're just doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
you kind of already answered it, but you said we're going to tie all of this to talking about the movement work I've done with you, and then what you're offering now, because I'm really excited to hear about that. But you kind of already answered this. You said in the last year, you've really gotten connected with God, universe, creator. But my question to you was, where were you in your life when you really dove into your divinity and got closer with God, universe, creator, and how has it changed your life?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I would say that I would say when I started like practicing a lot of yoga, which was probably 2015 is when it really started to unravel. And to be honest, when things got really hard and things started getting harder and harder and harder, I started leaning in more. And I would say the real peak was I had this dream to be a soul cycle instructor. And I'm going to share so much magic that happened.
I love it.
And it's all because I fully embodied and I really cultivated this relationship to, at the time, I referred to God as universe. And so I had this dream and I was like, I'm going to do this. And there was this audition. I'm like, I'm going to go to San Francisco and I'm going to audition. I'm not going to tell anyone. And I was like, okay, universe, show me a rainbow if I'm meant to do this. I saw the rainbow. I booked my flight. Before I booked my flight, I called my dad. I was like, Dad, should I go do this? He said, no, I don't think you should. He's like, well, that's cool. I hung up the phone. I was like, that's cool. My dad doesn't believe in my dreams. I'm going to do it anyway. I fly secretly to San Francisco. I do the audition. It's like, you have to get invited to do these things with Soul Cycle. So I flew there, auditioned in secret, was there for a night, flew back, got in at, there's like a wasp. I got in at like, I think it was like, I got back to my apartment at 3 a.m. I taught a class at 7 a.m. the next day. No one knew that I did this, but months leading up to that, every time I taught a spin class, I would walk down the street from my apartment. I'd be walking down the street as a Soul Cycle instructor. I embodied that version of me. I knew what it would take to be that person. And so I just started to live into that now in that moment. Long story short, I got invited to New York for 3 months of training. New York is not cheap. Okay. New York is not cheap. I end up going to teach a class at 7 a.m. one day. And this is like the day after I got the call and the invite. It was like such a long process. There was like 3 interviews.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, there was so much. After the audition itself was like insane, but also like the most fun and exhilarating thing I've ever done.
That's so cool.
So I get this invite and I was like, okay, universe, I need a sign. If I'm meant to go do this, you need to show me, make it so clear and obvious that I'm meant to do this. I get to the spin studio. This woman walks in with an I Love New York t-shirt on. I was like, oh my God, there's my sign. Then she comes up to the desk and I'm like standing there. She was talking to me. She says she's from New York and she rides at Flywheel and Soul Cycle in New York all the time. Okay, there's sign number 2. After the class. Okay, so after that, we like go, I teach the class. It was a great class. Come out. Everyone starts to leave. One of my friends is hanging out, waiting around for me so we can like catch up and have a little chat. Meanwhile, I'm like getting all my things and I'm standing in the studio door. I'm standing in like the actual studio door of like where all the bikes are. And this lady, she walks by me once. I heard this voice being like, go talk to her. She walks by again. Something was like, talk to her, Chelsea. And then the third time something was like, talk to her. I was like, okay. And I was like, okay, this is really random, but can you come here for a second? No one really knows about this. I tell her everything. She says to me, you have to do this.
Oh my
Okay. I've
God.
lived everywhere. She's like lived everywhere. She's like, I've lived everywhere in the world. New York is my favorite spot on the planet. You need to do this. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity and you are made to do this. Like you shine, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay. I end up, this friend that was hanging out waiting for me, we end up standing outside and chatting. Meanwhile, this woman actually came with her nephew. I didn't know that. Her nephew comes up to me, gives me his phone, and he was like, hey, my aunt wants your email. Can you put it in my phone? I was like, yeah. So
Amazing.
I put my email in the phone. Long story short, I spend the entire weekend freaking out about a place to stay because it is very expensive to stay long-term in New York. And I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do it. I don't know what I'm going to do. That Monday morning, I had a free place to stay in New York.
Oh my gosh.
Then get this.
You can't say no to that.
You can't say no to that. Then get this. I then get relocated to Toronto. Okay. So I moved to Toronto to teach a soul cycle. My very first class is a community ride where anyone can ride for free. So they really want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to the community.
Yeah.
So after the class, I'm sitting on the bike. We're like going through the stretch and like just like chatting, having conversation. And then I heard something in the back of my mind be like, ask if anyone has any leads on an apartment. And I was like, I'm not doing that. And I was like, and I heard it again. I was like, okay, that was so clear. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I know this is kind of weird, but like, I'm new here. And if anyone has any leads on any apartments, like, please let me know. I'm just like, I'm at an Airbnb right now and it's not as great as it looked to be. So I'm like in the market. So after the class, this woman comes up to me and she was like, so about what you were saying, my husband and I were going away for the month of December. And I was like thinking maybe if you'd want to house it while we're gone. I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Yes. I end up getting invited over. We have this like beautiful chat. I'm there for like an hour and a half. She's like, well, when do you want to move in? Like, let's get you out of that Airbnb. I end up living with them for like 8 months for free.
Oh my gosh. That's insane.
Okay? It's magic.
That
is the thing. There is magic. But the thing is, it all starts with the embodiment. Okay. Now how did we get here? Okay. So that is how it really all started.
Yeah.
So from that moment, I was like, there's magic. There's absolutely magic. And
if that can happen, like what else can happen?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I just like leaned in. I was like, hey, I'm gonna lean in further and further and further to this. And I eventually let go of teaching indoor cycling, which led me to my first like dark night of the soul. I like left and came back from Toronto to Edmonton. I was like working at an ice cream shop being like, what is my life? I went from a professional fitness career to like scooping ice cream, which was like really fun. And then I was serving and I was like, I'm bigger than this. Like there's something bigger for me. Like, and not that there's anything wrong with serving. Like, and especially specifically now, I'm like,
yeah, I've been there.
Serving was fun, like fun. It's a fun job, you know, but it's like, I just know that this isn't what it is for me. Like, it's not lighting me up in the way that I know that I can be lit up. But actually, a little bit of rewind. When I was in Toronto, right after I left Soul Cycle, I went down to the water and I was sitting at the water and I had my journal and I had this like big wave and I grabbed my journal and I start writing and writing and writing and writing. I wrote a whole method. It was a movement. It was like this method that like unlocked your chakras. It expanded your aura. It like released stored up emotion. And I was like, holy shit, I need to do this. I sat on it for 2 years until I finally launched it. And that is what I love more than anything in this world is to teach that.
And that is what you did in Edmonton too on the rooftop and everything, right?
And that is what I did. Yeah. And that really like brought me home to myself and who I am and what it is that I'm here to do. And and that's one of the ways. And also, I've also learned that I want to go like deeper than the body. I really do love going into the mind and helping people to really see what they can do, but actually take action on it. Because through movement, you can cultivate and experience so much inspiration, so much motivation, but it's like, okay, once you leave that, how do you keep that going? And so now that's what I've really leaned into in the last little bit is I'm still going to teach those classes because that is where my soul gets set on fire. Yeah. And also I want to be a support to those who see something greater. And because we all do, like, that's the thing.
They just don't know how to get there.
They don't know how to get there, or they're too scared. And that's the biggest thing, is the fear, is the doubt, is the worry. That's what continues to stop and block people.
Yeah.
And so it's when you really get out of that and get out of your own way, like that is where everything starts just like flood in.
100%. Oh, I'm so glad that you mentioned that. I got so much to say.
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, I want to mention
there's a wasp over here. I'm sorry.
And my dog just escaped the van. Hold on.
The candids in this.
I know.
Podcast.
Tucker escaped the van. He's at the front door. Can you just let him in? I'm almost done.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Oh my Lord. This is like the most entertaining podcast ever. Okay. No, but what I was going to say.
That's just what you get.
Oh my.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
But what I was going to say was, I've been so honored to be part of your movement and what you do. And I can say that I've been an athlete my whole life. I've worked out my whole life. I love moving my body, but that type of movement, not only is it like great for like on a fitness level, but the first time I did it, I think it was when Amber was doing her courses and you were part of that. And it brought up so much emotion for me that I just bawled my eyes out the entire time. And I remember actually Steve doing it too. And he asked openly, like, is it normal that I started to cry? Because he felt like, what the heck is going on with me? Like, I'm starting to cry and we're like doing this movement. But it's so powerful. And it was a totally different experience I've ever experienced when it comes to moving my body in general. It didn't just move my body. It like hid an emotion, and it was like such a release. And I'll have goosebumps even saying that, because I can just bring myself back to that time. But what you do with that is like, so I like, honestly, I'm lost for words. It's so powerful, and it was such a release for me that it opened me up that jumping jacks are no longer just jumping jacks. Like this morning I felt so heavy and I was like, man, I sat in the van, I just cried because I just felt like I needed to cry. And then I got out in the middle of nowhere in the van in front, and I just did 100 jumping jacks. But I was like, Chelsea would like say to like go to the top and then clap on the back and like make them big jumping jacks. And it was just moving. And yeah, so my experience with what you do with the movement was not just a physical, it was an emotional, and highly recommend. Like, I'm sure you're offering more of those classes probably in Edmonton. Like, you have to try it at least once, because it was like an unforgettable experience. I absolutely loved it. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was honestly amazing. And what was the other thing I was going to mention? I got too into myself about how incredible that was. I forgot. We'll move on to the next thing. Yeah, I think that.
Well, actually, one thing I want to say just quickly about that is like, the fact that you felt that through a screen means the world to me, because when I first envisioned this, it was never meant to be virtual. It was like this experience that people came and were in the energy of the people around them, with the music, in the nature. Amazing. And it was like the most incredible experience ever. And so the fact that you felt all of that, just, it means the world. Like, it means the world to hear that.
Yeah.
That you were able to create that on your own too, just through being led. When in these like experiences, in the classes in person, I find that I do put so much energy into holding the space and creating that space for people. So I just love that you felt it that way, and you've like used that as a tool in the future. It's just like, it's the best. It's the best.
No, it was an incredible experience, and something that I had never experienced before. And it made certain, I think, silly, but like, you take for granted jumping jacks, and you take for granted like I don't know if there's a name for it, but the squats and then throwing yourself into the air. Like, there are so many times I'll just be like, I need to like aggressively throw what I'm feeling away and give it up to the universe, God's creator, so he can transmute it into something bigger. And I will do that movement, and I actually can feel and like visualize like what doesn't belong to me being ripped off of me and then being transmuted into something beautiful and then given back to me. And I love having people like you on my podcast, so that I can like just express how much you've changed my life in that way, and that people who don't know you or like see that you're putting out these classes, like, get in those classes, because you have to experience that. You have to. It was amazing.
Thank you.
It was
Thank
amazing.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You're making me so excited. Now I'm like, I have to go teach. Like, let's go tomorrow.
Oh my gosh.
I'm
anything
I'm in the middle
great.
of like trying to find a rooftop. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's going to come. Whatever is meant is going to come. So it's going to be good.
Yeah.
And you also, I want to get into what you're tying it down to what you're offering, but also just want to mention that you do have a podcast.
I do have a podcast.
And I know you talk about like jumping timelines and getting out of your own way. That's what I wanted to talk about. Okay. Yes. Thank you. That's what I wanted to ask. When it comes to people, and you already talked about this, and I think this is perhaps what you are launching, you have already launched, but for the people who know they're meant for more, they don't know how, they don't know what, they're stuck and they're in their own way. What advice, like, what would you tell them? What would be like the foundation of like helping someone get out of their own way?
Yeah. I mean, I do have a program that's open for registration right now. We can talk about that later, but I think just like the most simple thing is giving yourself time and space to just be. It's number one. And that doesn't have to be that month, doesn't have to be days, that doesn't have to be hours. It could be an hour. It could be an hour a day for a week. It's giving yourself the time and space to be with your thoughts, and then also like ask yourself the bigger questions and open yourself up to something. It's okay to not know right now. That's another thing. It's okay to not know. And the only thing that you need to know right now is what you know. Yeah. And it's so easy to get caught up in like, yeah, but like, okay, but what then? And like, what after that? And what after that? And what after that? But it's like, you're going to know when you're meant to know. And that information will come to you in ways like, I'm a big proponent of human design. And even in that, your inner authority and like the way that you respond to things, that tells you so much too. It's like, some people are supposed to wait for the invitation. So it's like, they wait to be offered something, and then they like can choose, does that feel good to me or does it not feel good to me? So it's like human design is so complex, but it's like the best tool in my opinion as to how to really live a life that's fulfilled and easy and flowy. Yeah. That's been a huge thing for me. And I actually offer readings in my program. But I would say that, yeah, like clearing out space for you to actually hear yourself and feel yourself and like write. So number one is getting clear. Number one is finding the clarity. And that doesn't have to be what you want. It can be what you don't want. And from then you can start to eliminate those things, because it can be so overwhelming to be like, I don't know what I want, because there's so many options, right? Like the options and the opportunities and the possibilities are literally limitless. So getting clear on what it is that you don't want, right? So that's number one, is like the clarity. Number two is clearing out what doesn't serve you anymore, really figuring out, is this in alignment? And is this not in alignment? And making two separate lists and being like, hey, I'm getting rid of all the things that I can on the list right now that don't serve me, that aren't in alignment with this highest version of me. And that just also opens up space for that information and that next step and that clarity come through, right? Because if you have all this garbage and clutter, where are you going to put the stuff, and how are you going to know if it's garbage and clutter or like the light? And oftentimes you can tell because you'll feel it and be able to like see how you feel when you're in that. But with all this other stuff, it's like, you're going to question and be like, huh, really? Is that it? I don't know. And then the third piece is like the embodiment of that, is like embodying that version of you. Like, what would it feel? How would you carry your body if you knew what you wanted? Not even like, you don't even have to know what you want, but like, how would you carry your body? How would you walk through life if you knew what you wanted? And that can be the first step in the embodiment. And then the next is like, through all of that, by doing all those things, you're just like, you really are opening the floodgates to those possibilities that are in complete alignment, that are like going to fill you up, that are going to bring you closer to God, closer to your highest form of joy. And it's just going to be this like beautiful path. You'll probably face some difficult times, some like challenging, trying times, because that's how you learn and grow. And if everything were just given to you, you wouldn't grow at all. So I would say like those three things is going to lead to like the manifestation of everything for you. And then all encompassing is like having faith. Like the faith is what
you just took the words out of my mouth. I say, once you have those three things and you do those three things, the rest really is just having faith and trusting that it's it's there and it's coming.
Yeah.
It's already here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
and you don't always need
I
to
would say
know
that.
how long it's going to take. You just need to keep trusting, keep that faith. Yeah.
Yeah, like I heard this, I don't know if you know who Amanda Francis is, but she says faith is continuing to have faith even when it didn't happen. It's like you still believe it's going to happen. Still keep believing, right? So, yeah.
I love that.
Faith,
and oh, it's an incredible thing. And it is accessible to everyone at any point in time. And that is the beautiful thing with it too.
That's the truth.
You know? So with everything, and I do want to talk about what you're offering, because you're just such a beautiful person. You have so much knowledge to give. I can feel how much of an impact you make on people, and I want people to experience, and I want you to be able to just help as many people as you possibly can. So I do want you to talk about what you are offering. But before you do that, what are ways, maybe people want to know, daily practices that you do to stay connected, so that you don't fall back into, the fear, doubt,
Yeah. I love this because everything that I do is like so simple. I meditate. Number one is I meditate. Number two is I feed myself foods that make me feel good. It's like the clearer the vessel I am, the better I'm going to feel. And like the more energy I'm going to feel and the more faith I'm then going to like experience because of all that. So I meditate every day, and like meditation doesn't have to be this like scary thing. It's like sitting, getting still. I also journal. I journal my dreams. I journal my dreams all the time. I'm constantly writing what it is that I want, the life that I want to live. So those are like two really easy things. I get in nature. I pray. I talk to God. I talk to universe. I keep a really open dialogue with source. But in like the other things that have been the most supportive is like the shadow work, going into like the darker things, like the fears, the doubts, going into them so you can actually clear them out. Because if you don't clear them, like they're just going to be there. Right. And I mean, they'll always come up, but those beliefs, they really do need to be cleared out.
And do you find that when you go into those fears and the darkness, I guess, do you kind of, when you go into it and you ask those questions, do you find that it's not true? Like they're fake fears, they're false beliefs. But I feel like sometimes for me, even I'll have a fear. Oh my gosh, I had so many fears and doubts before I got on the road. What if this? Worry about that. I'm scared of this. And go into it. You have no factual reason to feel that fear and feel that doubt. Yeah. And at the end of it, when you get into the deepest, darkest, core of it, it's not even real. And I can say none of the things I was worried about or afraid of has happened. None of the thoughts I thought I was going to have on the road being alone by myself in the woods have happened. But 2 months ago, they were so real that I almost didn't go on the road.
Yeah. And that's just it, is that all suffering happens in the mind. Yes, of course, there's going to be moments where you're feeling the anxiety, you're feeling the fears, and like you might also feel some physical pain. But even all the anxiety, all of those fears, it's still all just happening in your mind. Right. And so absolutely. Like almost all my fears is like, have they actually happened? No. Could they happen? I mean, maybe. Will they happen? No, because you're in faith and you have you do have some control, like, right? Yeah. You are a creative being. You are a creator. So yes, allow those thoughts to come up. You can work them out to the end. Worst case scenario, it's like, hey, if this happens, then I'll like do this and I'll do this and I'll do this. But then it's like, oh, but actually if that all happened, I still have a way out because I'll just get myself out of it. We can feel so helpless, but we're never actually helpless.
Yeah.
There's always something that we can do. It's just taking that next most simple, uncomplicated step. And that's really helped too. Is like, what's the most simple step that I can take right now to like support me?
And honestly too, I mean, recently, one of the things that was told to me, and I have to be reminded of this sometimes too, is to stay so close to being in the moment. Like stay in the moment. The past is the past. It's part of your soul, and the future is the future, but stay in the moment. And that is something that I think I've been practicing more so recently than ever, is as soon as I start to catch myself talking about the future, I'm like, oh, nope, Cass, stay in the moment, stay in this van, in the moment, right here, how you're feeling. And I think that alone takes away so much anxiousness or overload of your brain. Like, don't think so much, just stay in the moment of where you are and be present in the moment. it takes a lot off you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. And I think one of the easiest ways to come back into the moment is like through gratitude. And I know it's like we've all heard it before. It's like practice your gratitude every day, all these things, but it's like it's so true. Like in those moments, it's like, okay, I've worked it out to the end, and now like what is actually true? Oh, I'm like super grateful that I have this space to like live, that I have this really warm, comfy bed, that I have like nature all around me. You know, it's like, and I mean, it's is so simple, and sometimes it can sound silly, but it's like the root of the root.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And not just writing down what you're grateful for, but actually feeling that emotion of that gratitude, because that will just amplify into something else.
Yeah, 100%. Of course. Yeah,
I'm still practicing, but I feel like I have come a long way. Yeah. And I've learned so much. And honestly, through people like you.
And that's the thing. It's like, well, I mean, like it is a practice. That's the thing. It's like, it's a constant practice, right? It's like we are these souls in a human body, and this human body has all these things, you know, and fears are going to come up, but it's just like, it's the practice of, okay, I'm not choosing that. I'm choosing a better thought. I'm choosing to like believe, I'm choosing love. I'm choosing the things that feel good rather than all that keeps me in like the dumps.
Absolutely.
Ain't nobody wants to be in the dumps.
No, we don't. So on that note, what are you offering right now? Where can people find you?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm so excited about this program.
I'm so excited.
It's my favorite program I've ever done. So it's called Grand Rising, and it's a 3-month one-on-one coaching program. And essentially we go into all areas of your life and we edit them out. But before we do that, we get you so clear on who you are, what you want, how you're designed to live. And then, like I was talking about before, we edit, we clear, we collapse old timelines, we get rid of the old, we make this space for the new.
I love it.
And then it's so good. It's like this cleansing for the soul. And then we get you into like the spiritual connection. So you learn how to trust your intuition. You learn how to trust yourself. You cultivate a relationship with yourself so that you know who you are and you know exactly what it is that you want and what you need to do to get there. And you don't feel alone, and you won't fall back into the old patterns because you have all these tools.
Yes.
And then from there, we get you into the phase of like the creation. So of the action, of the physical manifestations, of like taking the aligned steps to get you to where you want to be. Because I truly think that there are all these programs out there that are just like, you're broken and you need to heal. You're broken and you need to heal. You're broken and you need to heal. You're not broken. And you don't always need to heal. What you do need to do is believe in yourself, go do the damn thing that you want to do. And if you need support, then get the support and start taking the steps, because we're like in a time where time is speeding up. Time is actually speeding up. Like from a scientific researcher standpoint, like time is actually speeding up. And so I'm not like fear mongering. I'm not saying like you're running out of time, but it's like, no, how much longer are you gonna sit around and not do the things that you truly want to do? And that's like, that is what I want people to do what they want to do. And I want them to realize their potential. And sometimes you need someone to like hold your hand and be like, you can do this. And I am that person. It's like, I will be your big sister, your cheerleader, like the one that you need to like push you, but like pull you through guidance. And so it's a 3-month program, one-on-one coaching calls, 12 online modules. It's the best. It's honestly, it works. I've put myself through this program, and
I was gonna say
the results are there.
And for the people who are probably going to listen to this or follow you on Instagram and see your posts and ask themselves, does it really work? Like, yes, it fucking works. Yes, it works. Yes, it works. Yes, it works. And if you're unsure if it works, do it anyways, because it's going to work. It's going to work. Anyone who does this work will come out on the other side with something greater than what they had before. And if someone like Chelsea is offering this program, everyone needs to take the opportunity, because there are a lot of people that offer things like this, but there is only one you. And you are such a great guider. And I honestly do believe that anyone who, can hold your hand and have your guidance it's going to change their life. Yeah.
That means the world. Thank you.
So where can people find you?
Thank you. Yeah. So Instagram, chelseavictoria.com. Chelsea
I will
Victoria's
put all this
taken, so I had to
information.
get creative.
Yeah, I'll put all this information on the episode.
Amazing.
So it'll be easy for people to find.
Great. And then I have a podcast. It's called Beyond the Body podcast, where we have really great conversations about spirituality, about real world stuff. I just had a friend of mine come in and talk all about trauma. Yeah, it's so fun. So my podcast, and those are like the two spaces that will hold all the stuff that I'm up to.
I love it. Yeah, I'll put all this information in this episode as well. Selfishly, the last question, because I kind of want to know, because you read like really good books. Yeah. What are your like top 2 books that you recommend? You're loving right now.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So number 1 is Conversations with God. I'm obsessed with it because
I've listened to that.
This is the thing.
It's good.
It's so good. Okay, you've listened to it?
I'm like more than halfway through. Not at the end yet.
Okay, the thing is, like, you need to, this is like a book that you need to read because as you're reading it, it's literally like God's source universe is speaking to you, and it's like brilliant. So Conversations with God, love. And honestly, for someone who's just starting their spiritual journey, like if they're having like a bit of a spiritual awakening, Gabby Bernstein's Spirit Junkie was really great. I read that when I was in Toronto, and I was like, damn, Gabby, this was good. I actually think it's one of my favorite books by her. And I don't really ever talk about it, but Gabby Bernstein's Spirit Junkie was really, really good. So I would say those 2, but then also anything by Florence Shin is like game changer. So like The Game of Life and How to Play It. The Game of Life and How to Play It is like, is probably like another, like for sure, top 3, 100%. Yeah. And actually just like quickly, briefly going back to one of the questions was like, what do you do to keep yourself in faith, is like meditation, speaking, praying, but also like books that speak truth. And then like my people and podcasts. It's like I'm constantly doing all the things.
Yeah, so, just like like emerging your entire self into all of these things. I think that's a good place for people to start, is just emerging yourself into different things, books, podcasts, like the right things, the truth. Yeah, absolutely. And so everyone is going to click the link to Chelsea's newly launched program and invest in themselves and get involved with this, because this is a perfect opportunity. You don't even have to look. It's already being presented to you right now. You don't have to go look what you're going to do to invest in yourself. It is right here in the description and as you listen to this podcast. So thank you so much for taking so long out of your Friday to be on my podcast. I honestly, like, you are truly an inspiration, and I look up to you so much. So to have your time I'm so grateful. So thank you.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Like, the pleasure was all mine. This is so fun. It just like, it re-sparked some motivation, inspiration in me. So yeah, you're such a sweet gift, and I can't wait to see like all the things and stay updated on your journey. It's just been so fun watching you. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, this will be out. I hope everyone enjoys it. Thank you so much again. Everything that you can find on Chelsea will be in the description of this podcast. All her social media, you'll be able to find her everywhere.
Okay, Cass, I'll talk to you soon, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye.